So I'm sitting here with the person who actually sampled the Khufu graffiti, right, in the Great Pyramid of Giza.
I did my PhD about nicotine and cocaine in Egyptian mummies, the presence of these two New World alkaloids. I participated in a private exploration guided by Stefan Erdmann. He contacted me in this special exhibition. Dominic, I have discovered something on the ceiling of the king's chamber, and I was falling down almost when I saw these black tongues under artificial light. And we asked Dr. Garber Ali Omar, listen, we are doing surface investigations with a high advanced laboratory in Germany. Why do we not test the famous Cartouche? 6 months later, I was giving a speech in New York, and I was on the television, and they took me out, and yeah, there is a minister of antiquity. His name is Saya Was. He's accusing you have stealing the Holy Grail of Egyptology, has hammered out the Cartouche to prove that the Jews have made this pyramid. I said, so what you are telling me? And the HD picture from Robert Schoch shows you the three strokes are not exactly in the middle as Howard Weiss has painted. My life became changed on May 28, 2007, when the New York Times has reported first time about us. It was written on the third page, German Indiana Jones want to cross the Atlantic Ocean on a haystack. This shows the efficiency of this leeboard sailing technology, what I took over from pre-dynastic boats from ancient.
So you traveled from New York to?
Almost to the Azores.
Azores. But if they would have already iron tools, it would kind of bright a different light on this waste topic.
Yeah, of course. And we know, his name is Professor Pleiner. Pleiner could show they had already iron in the Tel Halaf culture. Tel Halaf is 5,600 long before.
So you think the Nagada culture surely had iron? Wow.
And this solves all technical questions with the construction of the Khufu pyramid, with the granite technologies. If you have iron, you can do anything. And we reanimated these iron plates, and we hammered with simple wedges under these iron tools, and we could lift such a 16-ton block in just 5 minutes, 10 centimeters. We lifted
How many people?
2.
So, Dr. Dominique Görlitz, thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
We are in this very exciting exhibition, which is yours. Could you tell us a little bit about this entire setup and where we are? Prost.
Let us scroll. Prost. Yes, I'm running this special exhibition since about 6 years now. We call it Abora Science Center. Abora is the name of my brand of our expeditions, but here we are presenting much more than our readboat expeditions. It's about global traffic, global communication before the advanced civilizations, what we used to say Stone Age.
Just a quick reminder. If you would like to see the full post-show, including an exclusive in-depth tour with Dr. Görlitz at his incredible exhibition featuring his fully functional predynastic reed boat, it's available to all YouTube channel members and Patreon supporters.
And as a PhD invasion biologist, I'm investigating cultural diffusion in common. And we follow the quest. Was there global knowledge transfer before the advanced civilizations? And it is possible to prove this. And I did my PhD about nicotine and cocaine in Egyptian mummies, the presence of these two New World alkaloids. And my former doctor father was Dr. Svetlana Balabanova. She was a forensic expert and has already discovered in the late 90s the presence of these two New World alkaloids in mummies, in Egyptian mummies. And this is a wonderful symbol for what I'm doing with Abora, connecting interhemispheric societies on the other side on the planet. And of course, some modern archaeologists will have difficulties with my major initial hypothesis because, we are educated in the sense, yes, of course, we could travel across the sea, but maximum along the shores, maximum between low-distance shorelines. But the imaginations that people crossed the oceans long before us, this is actually, it's a very old idea. Also when Columbus discovered America, for him it was for sure that there was exchange. And the opinion that the American societies were in contact with approach civilizations is actually common ones, because when the first Spaniards have conquered Meso and South America, everywhere they hold the same story. People came long before you across the Atlantic Ocean. The people who came, they taught us how to breed corn, how to breed cotton, how to write, and all these achievements, what we call modern society, was transferred from one side of the ocean to the other. And this was common for maybe, let's say, 400 years after Columbus, and then with the specialization of modern archaeology, speaking about Egyptology, Mesopotamia, but also Mesoamerican archaeology, first American archaeologists find out that the societies in Mesoamerica are obviously much younger than the old Egyptian or old Mesopotamian society. And so it came to a typical paradigm shift. Everything was upside down. What was logical before become unlogical at the end of the pre-last century, let's say beginning of 20th century. We have a global paradigm shift that people believed from this moment it wasn't possible to cross the ocean with a prehistoric raft. It was impossible over such vast distances, being in a regular contact and exchange.
Yeah. But
And
you were also a friend with Thor Heyerdahl.
I'm come still to the subject, but
Right.
important is to understand, in the first decades of the last century, more and more the opinion became stronger and stronger that the vast oceans you could only cross with a modern ship, with an engine, with a lot of steam, or better, a German diesel.
But I think the mainstream narrative is still the same, that prehistoric people couldn't really do seafaring, right?
Yeah.
So,
And then in the late 30s, a young student in biology and geology, Thor Heyerdahl, he made a practicum on a Polynesian island with later with his wife. And when they have studied beetles and animals on the Tuamotu archipel, Thor was in a very small settlement on the eastern coast of this island. And they lived in a small village where the last cannibal of the island was still alive, a very old guy. And Thor spent 1 year with his wife, live on this island. Every evening, when he was afraid of being eaten, this cannibal told him again and again this same story. Our ancestors are not from Asia. Our very old ancestors came from the other side of the ocean. And he pointed to east. And this was South America.
yeah.
And so Thor's interest in ancient societies have started on this
From that point,
excursion, on this point. And when he returned later to the university back to Oslo, then he shifted his interest from biology to anthropology. And so the whole story started. And this is a wonderful story because I realized almost the same with my competitors. And then he has written a very thick book, a study about the natives of the Pacific Ocean. Nobody wanted to read this book. And he went to New York to his biggest criticizer, Professor Brown. And he asked Brown, what can I do that you read my book? And Brown said, make a raft, cross the Pacific Ocean, and I will start to believe you. And this is what Thor did.
Oh,
This
wow.
professor couldn't imagine that this young Norwegian will really realize this crazy idea, so to say, an apostrophe.
Yeah.
He did. He became world famous, and so the Kon-Tiki story has started.
But when your journey started?
I started in the 80s, beginning of the 80s, with my own story, and it was not the same, but
Quite similar.
similar. In 1990, when the unification from East and West Germany happened, the world was suddenly open for us East Germans. And my girlfriend and I, who is accompanying me, her name is Cornelia Lorenz, she accompanied me since 35 years now, finally. Ooh, I'm getting old. But 35 years ago, when the borders were open, suddenly we decided, let's go to Egypt. Now we have the possibility, the unique opportunity to study the pyramids and also to Heyerdahl's rock drawings and ship drawings in Upper Egypt. And I was smart and young and fresh. I went in the German archaeological department, as a DAI, Deutsche Archäologische Institut in Cairo. And this was maybe the most important meeting of my life, because I met a young German Egyptologist from Nuremberg who totally revealed me from all mysterious about Thor. And he said to me, this was in 1992, yes, it was in 1992, he said to me, Dominique, I also studied Egyptology as you do as a student. But when I studied, I realized Thor in many cases was not so academical. Exact.
Thor?
Thor Heyerdahl. Thor. He said, I'm sorry to say this, but if you really want to continue Thor, you need to forget him. You have to put this aside and make your own studies. And I can testify that the Egyptians never traded to America. But I can give you a secret advice. There was a pre-Egyptian society here in the Nile Valley. These people came by boat from Mesopotamia.
She already told you that?
This was a man, a man. And this man, he came from Nuremberg. Later, I did my PhD at the same university, but this is 30 years later. And he said to me, I cannot tell you what you have to search for, but what I can advise you, supervise you, is you have to go, when you're in Egypt now, in the next weeks, not to Cairo and not to Saqqara, and no, go to Upper Egypt. There was a culture called Nagada people, Nagada culture. Those people came by boats from Mesopotamia, and you have to search these rock drawings in the deserts in Upper Egypt. I just know this from my studies, but I never have been there. I never have investigated these drawings. But I have a good friend in Luxor, and he knows people, Bedouins, who know the places. And this I did with Connie. Of course, we visit the pyramids and this, but we shifted our main objection from Thor, and to see all the places what Thor has described, we shifted our full interest to the Nagada people. And I'm sitting straight ahead of such an ancient Nagada drawing. And as he predicted to me, in the first day when I saw these drawings in the deserts, Wadi deserts, also Wadis were dry riverbeds. They go in the Nubian desert. And in the Nubian desert, we searched for such drawings the next 20 years, and we found it. This was a good thing. And immediately when we found these drawings, I understood immediately why Thor Heyerdahl failed with his sailing expeditions. He could just drift from A to B. He was never able to return from B to A.
Mm-hmm. And that's why he was never accepted, right?
Yeah, he was not accepted. And that's why he believed this crazy story that Egyptians, when they wanted to sail to South America, they needed to cross the whole planet to return at home. And if you have this circumference navigation, you can never establish trade networks. It takes far too long to cross the whole planet to establish what I'm calling long-distance trade.
But With what background did you start this?
Also when I was a youngster, I grew up with Eric von Däniken books, and then later in the 7th class, I got from my class teacher to Heyerdahl's Ra expedition. I shifted from Eric, from extraterrestrians to ancient Mesopotamians and Egyptians. And even when I was a child, I wanted to continue Thor. I made, as a pupil, 3 larger reed boats with my class friends from my own class. And yeah, we were quite successful in doing. My 3rd reed boat was 6 meters long and made by German reed, traditional reed. And it swam 4 months in a little lake. And 4 months are double the time what Thor needed to sail from Africa to America. And this was for me a first, let me say, not proof, but the first indicator that Thor was right. And later, when I wanted to study archaeology, not far from here in the University of Halle, I got a refusal and I thought, what can you do? Archaeology? Okay, impossible in East Germany. But then let's study biology. And evolution biology has to do with the spread of species, with the development of plant and animals and how they spread across our planet. And I have been studied botany and biology. Later, I worked about 10 years as a teacher.
What do you teach?
I have taught, I was a teacher for biology and physical education. And in those days, our German pupils were really smart and well educated.
So it was a primary school or?
No, it was a grammar school.
Grammar school.
And these youngsters were absolutely well educated and socialized. And we made Abora 1 and 2 with those students on the grammar school.
You built the raft?
With pupils.
With those kids?
With those kids, 3 years on Sardinia, Abora 1. And 2 years later, we made the same in Egypt.
I'm really interested in how did you get from biology to studying and making the doctorate on mummies?
Very early. My first semester, this was in 1989, when we finished our first semester in special botany. My professor, Dr. Helga Dietrich, she was the curator of the botanical garden in Jena, where my university is located. And she is quite famous, by the way. She was famous in Cuba. She was an expert for orchideas and other exotic plants. She took her dissertation and her habilitation in Cuba at the university in La Habana. And in my first examination, we have not spoken about plants. We have spoken about the opportunity that guanches from the Canary Islands have founded the first Cubanian population, because when my professor was a student, she did the studies in Cuba. Her professor showed her ancient villages with blonde-haired, blue-eyed human beings, but they did not speak any Spanish. They have spoken a dialect. What her professor told her was something like guanches from the Canaries, a language which was unknown for centuries in the old world, but those people in these little villages have not spoken one single word Spanish but guanches. And she said to me, Dominic, if you are really lucky and if you will fulfill your life legacy, continuing tour, you have to sail from Tenerife to Cuba. Because my professor has shown me so many similarities between this pre-European population in Cuba and the contemporary native people from the Canaries. And so, very early, I felt, here I'm totally right on this university, because this was from the botany side. And another professor teacher, his name was Dr. Manfred Eckert, he discovered my interest. And he was also a fan of Thor Heyerdahl, and he also supported me with some scientists from the Institute of Zoology. And so I got education also from the invasion biology about plant and animal species who are in the focus of invasion biologists, being transported long before Christoph Columbus with rafts across the ocean. And we see this here again and destroying above us. When people traded across the rivers and seas and oceans, they always spread actively or passively species like cattle or parasites or drugs like cocaine and nicotine. And so I understood, being a young student of biology and archaeology belong together, because always people transported and spread foreign species from one side of the planet to the other side. And with the progress of modern science in biology, molecular biology, but also forensic chemistry, today is so easy to prove this long-distance trade routes with modern scientific tools. That's why I'm so glad that I never studied archaeology. It was so important to study biology, which helps us much more today to reveal this forgotten trade networks.
But how could you do your doctorate regarding mummies or on the topic of...
Yeah, I'm, what shall I say? Also, I'm an active people, a human being. I'm giving speeches everywhere. Even when I still was a teacher, I had presentations in universities. So I was very often in Munich. I was very often, even when I still was a teacher, I was often in Bonn, in the Ibero Club, where one professor identified my interest for Mesoamerican cultural interaction. And he was the last professor of Kroll. He was the famous founder of modern plant geography in Germany after the Second World War. And Bernhard was the first name of this professor. And Bernhard offered me, when I was a teacher, why do you not make your PhD aside to your official occupation or profession? And I said, well, why not? And at the same time, I got friend of Dr. Svetlana Balabanova. This was a coincidence.
She became quite famous regarding the mummies.
I got to know her exactly in the same time when Professor Eberlein has offered me to start my PhD and do it too, that we had a wonderful, friendly impact. When Svetlana and we met as first times, we immediately fall in love above each other. She loved me for my expeditions. I loved her for her astonishing discoveries. And so with the offer from my first professor in Bonn, we decided, okay, I finish your work in Bonn. And my main field in this PhD was to disprove the opportunity that the nicotine and cocaine were the product of today's extinct species, which might have been existed 5,000, 3,000 years ago, before the collapse of the antique societies. And in fact, it is theoretical possibly that they were in contact with Indian or European farmers who have cultivated similar plants from the Solanaceae. This is a family of the nicotine plant, and there are many species with a lot of alkaloids, like the potato or tomato. It's also South American plants which contain these alkaloids as a protection alkaloid. Even tobacco or coca shrub does not produce these alkaloids for us. It's a protection alkaloid, not being eaten by insects or fungi. So, and this is what ancient societies have discovered very early, and they used it for their own purposes. Just for example, nicotine, we say in pharmacy language, is a panacea, is a substance which has an effect against everything. Cancer, pain, this and this. You can heal everything with nicotine, but of course, if you abuse it, it becomes too poison.
But you were working only on the nicotine part of the study, or also on the cocaine part?
I had 4 professors because from the very first beginning, I wanted to write a transdisciplinary PhD with geographers, botanists, oceanographers, Egyptologists, Americanists. So I put, my last professor was from the University Erlangen-Nuremberg. He said, please make a diagram how many sciences you are using. And I was not aware. 18 different sciences.
Jeez.
Not one, not two, not four. At the end, I had 4 professors, but in reality, I was dealing with astronomy, cartography, etc. A long and transdisciplinary network.
Astronomy. How astronomy was connected to the
astronomy has to do with navigation.
But with the cocaine mummies.
If you want to prove such ancient networks, you have to prove how they have made this. And astronomy is the orientation.
The navigation, I assume.
It is navigation.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why this is always when we are sailing with our rafts across the ocean. You have to be a skipper, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a seafarer, you have to be a ship maker, you have to be a tool maker, because we everything do it by our own. Yeah. When you are in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, you have to be able to make your own tools to repair your raft when you are getting in a critical situation. And so it was one stone pushed the next stone.
Yeah.
And sometimes the stones make huge detours, but in reality, after 40 years, 50 years of research, these detours were more important than arriving the goal or the aim. The detours brought me to new perspectives, to new points of view.
Yeah, broadening your
broader and also confirmed what I thought before. Then I stopped this thought. Later I discovered, this was better than what you are believing today. And this is what reminds me quite often also on Thor, because he also started as a biologist, and at the end he became an archaeologist, and later even an anthropologist. And you will end earlier or later in anthropology, because the question is if somebody has crossed the Atlantic or not does not belong to seafaring. It does belong to anthropology and humanity. What are the driving forces? Why societies are so incredible pride and later they become lazy and self-satisfied and collapse at the end. That's always the same story. This means we do not repeat Egyptian civilization history. No, we are repeating the same human behavior patterns.
Yeah, these human cycles are very interesting. Seemingly, it's happening all over again.
And this is I think this is a disease what we got from the reptiles. This is deep in our brain. This organ is called amygdala. This is the emotional center. Of course, we developed over the 100 million of years a huge computer called brain, but in reality, we still react like reptiles.
So please tell the story of these cocaine mummies.
Yeah, so I jumped little by many coincidences in this cocaine story, and in reality, cocaine is not really interesting. Tobacco is much more exciting. Both species are belonging to the Altiplano. They were roughly domesticated. There's not a real fossil, but with the help of the molecular clock, we can calculate when cocaine, and easier is tobacco, because modern tobacco, what we are smoking, belongs to a tetraploid species. And tetraploid means 4 genomes. One genome is from Nicotiana sylvestris, means common tobacco. And the other set of genes is from Nicotiana tomentozifolio, another Altiplano species. And we can relatively easily calculate by molecular tools when this hybridization has started. They became hybridized, let me say, 8 to 10,000 years ago. And very likely made by the humans. But it can also happen by natural effects. But we can estimate roughly 10,000 years ago. This means that agriculture in the New World is much older than the majority of the scholars' beliefs. Many people believe it has started with the Mayas, with the Aztec, quite late. No, American agriculture is at least 10,000 years old, same as in the Fertile Crescent. This maybe has to do with the ancient legends, because when I little by little dive deeper in this archaeological stories on the other side in America, I have to refer their legends which are well reported by historians. Not only one, there are many authors. They have recorded this ancient legends. And a very good version was recorded in the 80s, in 1982. And the American hero, Myths is the name of the book. And in this book, the author has carefully collected from Fireland to Alaska all different nations which original myths. And one myth was from the Toltecs, reported by the Maya people. As the Mayas are still alive. They never collapsed. The Maya society is still in the jungle of Mesoamerica as simple corn farmers. They never became extinct. It's a wrong belief of many people. These people are still alive. And those people told Brighton, this is the name of the author, that the Toltecs taught them their society was based by foreign people who came many thousand years ago by boats across the Atlantic Ocean. And those people have shown them how to breed corn, how to breed gourds, and how to breed cotton in all colors, from yellow, white, red, even to blue. Later, when I have done my PhD, and cotton was one plant in my focus, I found out there was an American expert of cotton breeding. His name is Agelquist. And this guy found out already in the 70s, when you are hybridizing cotton to make it domesticated, it changes its color from white to yellow, red, and even to bluish. And these genetical effects are reported in 1,000 years legends. 1,000 years old legends. And so little by little, I was jumping and diving in untouched territories. There has existed a lot of knowledge in different fields of sciences, there and there and there and there. And this is what I put in my PhD, which lasted over 12 years, all carefully together, from the botany, geography, astronomy, cave drawings. I put everything together. That's why there's 18 disciplines, to have an interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary picture of the possible transatlantic trade before Columbus. And that's why the plans are not really exciting. They are not really bold.
But this news was very exciting because they found South American cocaine in Egyptian mummies, right? So
not even this. We have in Egyptian mummies nicotine. And as I told you already, nicotine is even more exciting.
But why?
Because, number one, we have this hybridization event, which is 10,000 years old. Second is we know the species. They are from Peru and Bolivia. This means there could never have been existed in today's extinct relict endemite. This is an idea, but it doesn't work.
But you cannot prove this with the cocaine? Or
cocaine is the same, but this is more complicated. This is needs a little bit more of botanical education, but the effects are the same. We call these two species typical examples for South Hemispheric spread species.
Okay.
And South Hemispheric means there's only South America and or Antarctica.
Yeah.
Eventually, a little bit also Australia on the other side of the planet.
But I suppose we are not sure about Antarctica because it's still under ice, right?
Today. But 30 million years ago, it was ice-free, and it was connected with island change with Australia, Madagascar, Africa, and South America.
Yeah.
And via Antarctica, a lot of those southern hemispheric spread plants really became spread to Africa, Australia, and even Madagascar. Just as an example, we have two centers of diversity of cocaine. One center of diversification is in the Amazon Valley, of course, and another one is Madagascar. In Madagascar, we can prove 300 related coca species from the genus Erythroxylum, means redwood. It's a tree. Coca shrub is actually a tree. And these redwoods have the same diversity as in Brazil. But this is a secondary center. After the separation of Antarctica with Africa and Madagascar, those species had a 30 million long isolated evolution. And there, on Madagascar and a little bit in South Africa, we have 4 coca species, but they have the same lack of cocaine as in Madagascar. And this effect we call vicariance in biology. Vicariance means the ability to produce such enigmatic alkaloids like nicotine or cocaine is mainly the product of some isolated species, either on Madagascar or in the loneliness of the Altiplano. Even when the 2 Cordilleras, Altiplano is in plain between the eastern and western Cordilleras. Mm-hmm. This was also an isolated territory, similar like an island on the other side on the planet. There, due to the geographical isolation, we have such special developments. And there, the ancestor species did develop from the rest of the world. And this plain is called Altiplano, means alto, high plateau. And there we have these 2 ancestors of the tobacco plant, which became domesticated, hybridized about 10,000 years ago. And when we have proven this evolutionary history, this proves there cannot be a relative in Africa. Mm-hmm. Even we have a species from Nicotiana in Africa. The name is Nicotiana africana. Today we have only a very small population in Namibia with a few hundred examples only. They are completely different from what we call today's modern tobacco. They belong to the same plant species, to the same genus, but due to a 70 million years long evolution, they have completely different characteristics from the leaves, from the flowers, from the components, what they are producing. And this was in my PhD very important to show this academically, that it's impossible to find hypothetic donators for nicotine, and the same counts for cocaine, because with the help of the modern forensic, with the help of modern biology, with the help of modern molecular chemistry, I could collect proofs, evidences that those are totally known related plants what we have in the Altiplano. And cocaine and nicotine were domesticated in the heights of the Altiplano. If you take these plants down to Brazil and breed them, they do not contain cocaine. They need the high radiation by the sun. Without the high radiation in the Altiplano, we are speaking about the altitude of up to 2,500 meters. They do not contain any alkaloid, what we call cocaine.
So they cannot be a modern contamination or something?
Impossible.
Okay.
Genetical wise, impossible.
Because that was one of the news or the responses to this research, that it was probably a contamination from modern tobacco. Some archaeologists were smoking.
That's why my PhD was so important to finish Svetlana's heritage, because this was still open. When she contacted me, we have to solve the question, is there a possibility that they could obtain these alkaloids from related species in Asia, Africa, or even in Australia? And this is what my work could disprove. There is by no means there's any possibility that the Egyptians could obtain these plant substances from related species from Africa, as I said, Asia or Australia.
Not even in modern time? Like
in modern time, yes, of course. It's due to the rediscovery of America, those species became spread all over the world today.
Okay. So is it possible that
today tobacco grows even in Germany?
But that an Egyptologist or someone who excavated that mummy left that particle in the mummy?
And this is what my work could confirm.
Okay.
Those discoveries must have been based on long-distance networks of trade. It is impossible that they could get these substances from closely related plants from the vicinity of Africa.
No, I mean, for example, if someone was excavating that site where they found this mummy and they had the cocaine from that region you hypothesized, then maybe a modern cocaine was
This
on
is
the
what
mummy.
Egyptologists say at the last defense. When nothing works, then it was a pipe-smoking Egyptologist who has contaminated Ramses with nicotine and has contaminated Henutawi's head with cocaine because he was self-using these substances. But what Svetlana Balabanova did is really remarkable. She invented the hair shaft test. This means she did this for the Olympic Committee to prove the abuse of drugs for stimulation. And this was Svetlana's bright idea many years ago to prove in the hairs such substances by gas chromatography. She has developed this test. And this was explained if somebody have abused such stimulantias, she could prove by her testings he used it to prepare himself for the Olympic Games, because the alkaloids can be proven in the hairs or in the nails, on the skin. And this means he must have consumed these substances.
Yeah, clear, yeah.
And this is what Svetlana used later in modern Egyptology.
And she found this
And she found
in
it
the hair of the mummies. And
not only there. And this makes tobacco more interesting than cocaine, because Svetlana found out that we even found the metabolite of nicotine in Egyptian mummies.
Okay.
This alkaloid is still active. It's called cotinine. Nicotine is cut in 2 pieces in the liver, and this new molecule is called cotinine. But this happens only when the person is still alive. It cannot happen after that, as a postmortem. And this was really exciting when we jumped in this subject, because we found out, or Svetlana, I was just the consumer of her knowledge, she found out in the early 2000 years that rich people like Ramses or other kings, what she got access to investigate, never contained cotinine, always nicotine, and sometimes even cocaine. But cocaine, she could prove only 108 times cocaine. But we could prove in her laboratory 3,000 times the presence of nicotine. 3,000. Not 3, not 30, not 300. 3,000 evidences or proofs. And what we find out in the mummies of poor people who were simple mummified, they obtained little nicotine, huge amount of, as little nicotine and high amount of cotinine. This means they have consumed this American alkaloid when they were alive. The pharaohs got it after death for mummification, post-mortem. And this was important because this shows that they used these substances in a high quantity. When many thousand villages, also farmers, also contained little remains of nicotine and high amounts of cotinine. And this shows that they used it for daily purposes also.
Wow.
And even important was when we investigated children mummies, the babies and the young children contained in high concentrations nicotine and also cotinine. And when they became youngsters, zero, nothing. And when they went to work, again, high concentration of nicotine.
Wow.
And because in Africa, the babies got the mother milk until the 5th, 6th year. And this alkaloids came from the mother.
From the milk, yeah.
From the milk. And when they stopped drinking the mother milk and were simple children, they had zero nicotine, zero cotinine. And with 13, 14, 15, 16, it starts. And this we could prove in the child mummies. And this means also it was such a huge amount, they must have even breeded later nicotine in Egypt. And we have a very prominent example. It's exactly where this reed boat is coming from. Is the Wadi Zayala, we could prove in Wadi Sayala, even in the medieval age time, in the 11th century after Christ, the remains of nicotine. This means in such remote places, far away from civilized.
Where did you find it?
In Sayala, in Upper
But
Egypt.
in which?
In human remains from the
Also
medieval
human.
age.
Okay.
And this is also important to know. We even find nicotine, no cocaine anymore, in Greek and Roman mummies. Also the Greek and the Romans did mummify. Adult, rich, wealthy people became mummified. And this is wonderful to see with the Christianization of the antique societies. Nicotine and cotinine disappears in the 4th to the 5th century. Full stop then. In the 6th century, completely extinct. And this has to do with a change in the sacral imaginations.
Yeah.
Because for the Christianity, it was not necessary to preserve the body for eternity. And with this global change of religion, also the burial traditions and the mummification traditions were changing. Can you believe this?
Yes, I can believe this.
It's this exciting subject, actually. Much more interesting than Guinness, but not so tasty.
So how did you start the Abora projects? Because you are now completed the 5th, and
yeah,
how
so
did
this
it
is
began?
always many up and downs and detours.
But was it after the
No, I
your
did it.
PhD, or
It belongs also to Abora 3 was my project when I did my PhD.
So it started.
It started
long before
much
that,
earlier. Also it started when I was a child, 11, 13 years old, when I saw first time in East German television a crazy Norwegian who went across the ocean on a haystack.
But Thor Heyerdahl was still part of the few first projects, or he was advising somehow?
No, in those days not. But later, when I became a student at the university and I reinvented my reed boat making when we were in Egypt and I saw these rock drawings, I immediately knew I have to make a new boat. We have to test what we saw on these drawings.
Did you have any sailing knowledge back then?
This was my best condition at all. If I would have been a well-educated sailor, I would have been never explored the sailing technology.
Wow.
Because I would be blind. I would search for hydrodynamics and aerodynamics. I compare myself like with Heinrich Schliemann. Heinrich Schliemann had no idea about real archaeology, but he trusted in the antique legends, in the antique sophisticated historians. And I did the same. And this is what I realized very early with Abora 1. With Abora 1, Abora 1 was not, also Dilmun 1, 2, 3, I have been constructed when I was a student at the university in Jena.
With the other students?
With other students, exactly. And then I got to know Thor Heyerdahl in 1994 when I made a project, this is behind me, this ship is called Dilmun 3. Before this one was Dilmun 3. And with Dilmun 3 we sailed on the Baltic Sea from Kiel, where the Olympic port was. We sailed in and out against the wind. Thor saw this in a video, what I have sent him to the Kontiki Museum. 4 weeks later, he invited me to Tenerife, and there we became friends. And from then, this moment on, he accompanied me, I accompanied him, and he supported me in Abora 1. But I was so weak on money in Abora 1. We started Abora 1 after we won Jugendforscht, this is competition in Germany. We won 500 German marks in a competition, what we called Jugendforscht here in Germany. This means youngsters research. As a teacher, I accompanied my pupils, and we won this 500 German mark. And we had this amount on the table and said, so what we are doing. Then I was just a good friend with Thor, and I said, why we do not start with this 500 euro Abora 1? Let's start harvest German reed and let's make a big reed boat. And the pupils decide, yes, we follow you. And we have started a big expedition, international expedition with 500 euros. Later, we got some sponsors, they helped us. But we were so weak in money that I had to do so many compromises. And my problem was, I constructed the hull in Italy, on Sardinia, but the superstructures I constructed in my head in Germany. And when we put the German construction over the Italian boat, I realized I forgot the leeboards.
What's that?
Leeboards are these boards on this are these boards as a keel, exchange for modern keel. And the fixation of the leeboards were not comparable with the cabines.
So they were too weak to hold.
No, it was the position of this fixations.
So it was design.
The design did not respect the fixations of the leeboards in the hull, and so I had to decide: either I shift the positions of the cabines and change the positions of the leeboards, or I let the leeboards where they are and change the position of the cabines. And this was my mistake. That's why we had to shift the mast about 70 centimeters from the planned position more in the middle of the ship. And with this little experience in ship constructions, because I was a donkey, I had no idea about hydrodynamics and aerodynamics, what we can calculate today very easily, I decided, let's shift the mast. The ship was 14 meters long. And I said, what can happen with 60, 70 centimeters more in the middle? But this was wrong. So we couldn't use the leeboards at the bow. The boat was windward greedy, even without leeboards. And this...
Yeah, they are quite distinctive features of these boats on the Nagada bases.
This is what we totally underestimate, the intelligence of these predynastic navigators. What we see here is a full holistic design boat. When I see the sail today, not in 1940, in 1994, when I see it now, today, 2025, this is perfect architecture. This is completely well-designed ship architecture, and the position of the leeboards have to be well coordinated with the position of the mast. If you shift one piece, everything changes. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was a big mistake in Abora 1 to shift the position of the mast due to my mistake with the cabines.
Yeah.
And that's why we couldn't sail not even 90 degrees across to the wind. And that is why we consumed so much time to wait for the right favorable wind conditions. That's why Abora 1 could not cover the distance what we predicted. And
what was the plan?
We wanted to sail from Sardinia to the Canary Islands. Sailing on the Atlantic Ocean is easy. Every coconut which is dropping in Morocco in the water will drift somewhere to Mexico. But this coconut can never return to Morocco. It needs navigators because the currents are difficult. The winds are even more difficult instead of the currents. And this is why it is so important. If you want to prove transatlantic interactions by human beings, you have to prove also how they could realize this back and forth communication. And my response, World Wide Web is much older than us. The World Wide Web of antiquity and prehistory were the ocean belts and the wind current systems. And this is what the smart people have explored long before us. And they were able to produce tools, precise tools, to fulfill the demands, what you need for such interactions. I'm speaking about such ships, and what we see here is not the beginning of navigation. This Nagada ship technology is much too advanced to say this is the beginning.
Yeah,
it must have a much older prehistory. And this is what we are simply starting understanding with the discovery of Göbekli Tepe. That's why Göbekli Tepe is so important. Not how it is. No, it opens a new doorway of imagination.
It's broadening the perspective on humanity.
How far away we are from reality when we are speaking about our past.
Yeah.
And this makes us, that's why it's also important of having studied biology, evolution. If I would be Minister of Education, I would bring each student of archaeology 2 semesters in evolution biology. You need to get this view about spread, exchange, adaptation. And we are the most spread species on this planet. We are the hikers number 1 on this planet. At first, It started on land, of course, but later, much earlier, on the ocean. Even our ancestor Homo erectus was already a seafarer. He conquered by ocean or via the Lombok Strait another continent, what we call today Australia. If you travel by boat from Bali to Lombok, it's the same if you travel by boat from Africa to America. Even this is a channel of 30 kilometers wide. This channel is dividing categorically Australia from Asia, from the botany, but also from the zoology. 2 different continents with a gap of only 30 kilometers. Only the elephant, the bats, and men were able to conquer this channel. Modern mammalians. And the others had a natural stop, a border, an isolation border. And that is why Australia is also very exciting, also in terms of plants. We have also tobacco there. We have 20 species of tobacco in Australia. And one species even contains a high amount of nicotine. This means it is theoretically possible that the ancient Egyptians could obtain the drugs for mummification also from Australia. But this requires an even longer navigation by boat instead of sailing to Africa, from Africa to America.
So what did you change in Abora 2 and the other expeditions?
Yeah, with each expedition we understood the secrets of the maritime architects, how you have to put this and this. And I realized between Abora 1 and Abora 2, never change anything. Let it as it is presented. Do not involve it with modern ideas, modern experiences. It will fail. This was a major discovery between Abora 1 and Abora 2. In Abora 2, we made it 100% precise according to such Nagada drawings. And it worked fantastic. Abora 2 was Spaceship Enterprise.
So you did the same distance?
No, we did not the same distance. We sailed from Egypt, Alexandria, to Lebanon, Beirut, from Beirut to Cyprus, and from Cyprus we tacked back 600 kilometers against the wind back to Alexandria. And this was a final stamp on my certificate of a sailor, that we could demonstrate how ancient Egyptians could have traded between Egypt, Asia, and Europe and coming back. This was in 2002.
Crazy.
And with this success in the pocket, I went to the Atlantic Ocean because 2005, I started my PhD. 2005, I became friend with Dr. Svetlana Balabanova. In 2005, I also became a member of the Explorers Club in New York. And at first, we wanted to start the expedition in Mexico, in Cancun. But I could nobody inspire with enthusiasm in Mexico. On the ITB, I met the Minister of Tourism for Mexico, and when I explained to him about my ideas, my plans, he slept in. He fell to sleep during my presentation. I said, okay, goodbye. And when I became member of the Explorers Club in New York, it was not so much due to the Explorers Club, but I realized New York would be much better as a starting point than Mexico. And we have exhibited in 2006 Abora 2. It survived. We had a successful expedition. We sailed between the continents. First time we made a back and forth voyage with a pre-dynastic boat, sailing craft. The success was quite big. I got a lot of sponsors also after the expedition. And we reconstructed Abora 2 after the expedition. The hull was gone, but the superstructure survived. We made a new hull, and my idea was, let's go to the ITB 1 year later.
What is ITB?
This is the biggest tourism fair in the world, in Berlin. ITB is the international name of this fair, is the biggest. And this was story from heaven. This is like Thor, story from heaven. We put the Abora 2 in the main entrance in the southern gate. Southern entrance is the biggest one. And it was simply a bet, a gap. As we have made a bet because every morning 10,000 exhibitors went in, past us, and 10,000 exhibitors had to pass us out. I had no money for any advertisement. We just confirmed the leadership. Yeah, let's put Abora 2 in the middle, in the entrance. We support you, but then you are on your own. We had no idea where to sleep. We had no idea how to manage the entrance tickets, all this rubbish. We paid it privately. But my gap was, we will meet somebody who will understand what we have in mind. And this was so funny. It was the third day of exhibition, and it was an American. He came in the hall. He left all bags and went to the boat and was kissing Abora 2. The replic. I said, huh? What's going on here? They called me.
What the hell?
My pupils, Dominique, there is somebody crazy. He is kissing your boat. Oh, I let him kiss. And then he came, shaking my hands. I'm the tourism manager of New York, Big Apple. I was a child when Thor came with Thor to Barbados. I was the first who touched on the other side of the ocean. He was jumping in the port basin.
When Thor arrived with Ra.
Was swimming over to Ra too. And this guy was the marketing director of New York. And this was my ticket to do Abora 3 in New York.
Wow, that's crazy.
This is something from heaven.
But how did he?
He opened gates
there?
for me. I had no money as ever. He believed he made contact for me to Governor's Island. Governor's Island is the first airport from New York on the opposite of south tip of Manhattan. And I told everybody from the beginning, I'm from Germany, but from East Germany. You cannot expect that I have money. We do this with our very little resources. We understand you. And then we had a meeting with a business club in New York, has nothing to do with Explorers Club. Yeah, we have a wonderful offer for you. I said, oh my God, when I heard wonderful offer from American, can only be bullshit. And he said to me, listen, we have a plan. You get Governor's Island for just $100,000 per month. I said, you are kidding me? I told you, I even do not have 100,000 euros to make Abora 5. How shall I pay Governor's Island for 1 month? We needed 3-4 months. You are such an unserious person. When Hollywood comes to make Godzilla or other blockbuster movies, they have to pay 1 million for a day. You get Governor's Island for 100,000 a month. This is the cheapest offer we ever made. How can you be such a nasty person? I said, listen, I would pay you, but I do not have the money. So at the end, I started with a few friends, and we were in some yacht clubs, and we could, with the help of an American, we could find a yacht club who are willing to support us
In Abora 3.
With Abora, just 40,000 per month. And later, when he saw how poor we are, he said, okay, I take only 20,000 from you per month.
For what exactly?
Not to make Abora 3, yeah.
But that was like giving the full construction area?
Yeah,
what?
We had the construction area and also the shelter for sleeping. It was poorer than this place. It was raining through the roof. My father and my uncle have repaired the roof, the heater and the pipes. They were crying when we left America because we got a ruin and we gave him back an, German reconstructed building. But we could sleep with 40 people there. We rigged the boat there, and with a huge media attention, we put the boat to the water. And this, I always used to say in my speeches, my life became changed on May 28, 2007, when the New York Times has reported first time about us. It was written on the third page, German Indiana Jones want to cross the Atlantic Ocean on a haystack. From this moment, we had tons of press. Not millions, not trillions, billions of press people came. The next 2 months, I did not participate anymore in the construction. I was giving from the morning until the evening interviews. We had a few minutes for my team in which I instructed my deputies, think on this, make this, and then I was in the next meetings. It was on one side nice, but on the other side, it was very painful, very stresses. I got even calls from Russia, and they wanted to get an interview for Izvestia, this famous newspaper. I said, and they wanted to pay me $10,000 for one interview. I said to him, listen, I don't want 10,000 euros or dollars. I want an interview with Putin. If you can realize this interview with Putin, you get your interview. If not, don't call me anymore. That was just a joke. But every day I was occupied.
Yeah.
And the last day, this was on July 11th, 2007, I could take my American mobile and throw it in the Hudson River, being free from all these journalists. I felt like Michael Jackson or Britney Spears. You will become crazy in your head. If you every day, 24 hours in interviews, broadcasting, this and this, you are losing consciousness. This was so terrible. Even it was nice, but it was totally crazy.
Yeah.
And you couldn't walk not 10 meters around the boat, and 10 camera teams were there. When we went out of the harbor for test sailing, Fox News were circulating us with a helicopter, or yachts were coming, give an interview. And we wanted to prepare a prehistoric expedition.
Yeah. It's like the same when Thor Heyerdahl wanted to build, I think it was Ra-1, and the tourists were almost firing up the boat with cigarettes. But
you need this promotion to satisfy the sponsors.
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, you cannot do your real work. And so we started much too late, because our boat was stocked in the customs, because a worker from the custom found a little black beetle. Fortunately, it was not a Mexican tobacco beetle. Then the expedition would have been gone. Fortunately, it was a North American beetle who saw the boat and became a heart attack and collapsed on the deck.
Oh.
Was our luck. Lucky that it was not a South American species, it was a North American. But this has consumed 2 weeks to bring this beetle to the Hoboken Institute. In the Hoboken Institute, they decide, no, this has to bring to Jersey City University. In Jersey City, no, I'm not an expert for beetles. They brought it to the National Museum, and this consumes another 2 weeks, and another 2 weeks there. We started much too late to cross the Atlantic. And that's why when we left New York in July 2007, this was 1 month too late.
Welcome back to the Ancient Technology Podcast. If you enjoy the show and want to help me creating high-quality episodes, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. You can find those links in the description. Your support gives you early access, a say in the podcast direction, and exclusive perks like post-show bonus content. Most importantly, it helps me travel to meet guests in person, which is a key to producing the most engaging and in-depth episodes. Thank you for considering, and now let's get back to the show.
When we were on the other side, we got the storms, and 30 storms. This is a picture of one of the storms. This is 2 hours after 10 Beaufort. This wave is minimum 8 to 10 meters high.
Wow.
In the storm, the waves were for sure 10, 12 meters high. But what shall I say? We survived. And for my PhD, nobody did comprehend my approach. It was not necessary to touch Cadiz or Ponte Vedra on the other side of the ocean. My main goal was to cross the Atlantic Ocean in opposite direction to follow the Gulf Stream. Mm-hmm. And this is what we can see on 14,000 years old rock drawings. They exactly knew the current belts in the Atlantic Ocean, because an unknown pre-Ice Age cartographer has carefully painted the North Equatorial current belt like a river, goes from Europe via Africa to America, and then it turns north up to Florida. There starts what we call today Gulf Stream. And the young Gulf Stream follows North American continent until Cape Hatteras. And in Cape Hatteras, he makes a 90 degrees turn to east, and from this moment, the Gulf Stream starts to meander. And this is painted on 14,000 years old rock drawings. And this was a major convincement of the modern scholars in seafaring, that such primitive boats couldn't follow the meandering Gulf Stream, because they have a speed, these currents, of 10 to 12 knots. And they are even rotating on the edges anti-clockwise with circulations, what we call water eddies, water swirls. And these water swirls do not only turn into your direction, they also being transported as one swirl back to America. And this is what we did an interview in the Smithsonian Institute with professor, I forgot the name, a professor. He interviewed me for the ZDF. He asked me in such an interview, Dominic, how fast is your boat? I said, average 2 to 3 knots. Forget it. You will never lose contact to America. These currents are so strong and so aggressive. You will realize this soon when you're on the open ocean. In 2 to 4 weeks, you are exhausted and you will return to America. Call me, please. I bring you a Budweiser beer and then you can fly home. It's impossible with a speed of just 2.5 knots to leave the American current belts. I said, wow. We invested about 1 million euros, and then you get, before you are departing such an interview, this was not very encouraging.
Yeah.
I told this to my team, and I said, listen, we have the tobacco, we have the remains of cocaine, we have the remains of vanilla, we have the remains of pineapple, we have the remains of Mexican agave, etc., etc. It was not transported by aliens, like Eric von Däniken's theory. And we always trusted in the intelligence of antique civilizations. Do you follow me or not? Yes, of course, we follow you, Che Guevara. And we ventured out and we mastered these currents. Easy. This shows the efficiency of this leeboard sailing technology, what I took over from pre-dynastic boats from ancient Mesopotamia.
So you traveled from New York to?
Almost to the Azores.
Azores.
Due to the lack of money, due to the lack of so many things, we departed too late. And my boat became an age of 2 years. It was 1 year storage at the Lake Titicaca with a very little shelter only. But it was not the lack of shelter, it was the lack of many factors. And the biggest damage the boat got before it even reached our yacht club, because when we did Abora 3, this was after 9/11, and the American authorities have forbidden me to come in the harbor for the loading of the container. And we educated our truck pilot with everything, but with an intelligence like a hidden ant somewhere in the soil. He didn't use a forklifter as explained to lift on the scaffolding on which the boat was laying. He just took a stick and put the belt under the boat without any protection. And he lifted unprotected the reed body with only 2 belts, 10 centimeters wide only. And so he cracked the boat at the stern and at the bow.
Oh.
This, at the end, led to the interruption of the expedition, let me say 600, 800 kilometers before the Azores.
So you didn't reach the Azores?
Due to the 13 storms. It did not happen in the first, it did not happen in the second, not in the fifth, not in the 8th, not in the 10th. It was the 13th storm.
But did you correct it in Abora 4?
No, we didn't correct it because the main goal was not to touch the other side of the ocean. The main goal was to find out, is such a handicapped sailor able to follow the current belts with this crazy current, with this water swirls? Yeah. And we had enough technology on the boat to measure the speed and direction of the current, and we could demonstrate academically we were 3 times able to sail through such a huge water eddy. And this is what I wanted to find out. It was not, of course, I would love to end up in Cadiz or in Lisbon or wherever, no doubt. And it's for sure, the critics evaluated the 2,000 kilometers missing more than the 4,000 kilometers we really have crossed the ocean under very uncomfortable conditions. But for me as a scientist, it doesn't matter. The scientific goal was to find out if such an ancient square rigger is capable to follow the difficult Gulf Stream belts. Yeah. And we did 4,400 kilometers.
The Azores as a destination is quite interesting because there are a group of people who thinks that it's very likely the location of Atlantis or this idea as a seafaring nation.
Also I'm pretty much in contact with a Portuguese archaeologist, and one of my best friends is archaeologist Dr. Nuno Ribeiro. Nuno is making with me a scientific project at this moment of dating of 140 pyramids he has discovered in the year 2013. Actually, it's the same with Thor and the Canaries. He has nothing discovered. The local people knew the step pyramids since time immemorial. But Nuno was the first guy who brought those pyramids in relationship with Mesoamerica and the Canaries, and also the mainland in Spain, of course, where we have the same technology. As the same pyramids are also erected in Spain and Morocco. And in this moment, we are dating a coracle digged out under the nave of these pyramids. Unfortunately, our spectrometer in Kiel is broken. We are hoping that the instrument will be repaired now in February, March, that we can continue our measurements. In a few months, we know how old those pyramids are.
But you need some funding for that, right? Or how is that
project
going on?
No, this is another project what we are doing with Spanish archaeologists at the same time, simultaneously on the Canary Islands. When I visited with Thor the pyramids in Guimar first time.
So Thor Heyerdahl was also investigating.
Yes, he rescued. Also, he has nothing discovered on Tenerife or the Canaries. The pyramids are well described in ancient textbooks from the 16th, 17th century already by historians. One guy is Francesco Torriani, and he has done a marvelous work. He is carefully describing why these pyramids were erected, what was the purpose, which is doubted by modern archaeologists today, because they believe the same counts for Pico, for the island on the Azores, where we have over 140 pyramids. The modern archaeologists believe that these are stone hills to collect the fields free of stones. In Portuguese language, they are called majanos, this is Spanish, and in Portuguese, they are called majoicos, stone hills. And when I visited with Thor Heyerdahl in 1995, first times, this complex in Guimar, Thor explained me everything carefully. I had a little compass with me and I always measured the length, so in which direction they are pointing. I measured 285, 272, 263, 288. 9 pyramids, 7 are still visible, 2 disappeared, but you can see the fundaments where they were. Mm. I measured everything. I said, it's so well done, this architecture. I cannot imagine that this was done by coincidence or by stupidity, not to be able to make it symmetrically straight. But I couldn't prove it. And later, with my friendship to Eric von Däniken and his secretary, Ramon Zürcher, and I decided, Ramon has a little bit money, he lives in Swiss. He's from Switzerland, and with the help of Ramon's support, we made a full 3D, holistic 3D model of these pyramids. And friends of my Abora association, geodetic experts, they connected this model with the LIDAR dates. And another scientist, a friend of mine from Munich, is an astronomer. He put it in an astro program called Astrostellarium. And with this program, Dr. Rappenglück from Gilchings, close to Munich, he could prove, as I had it in my very first feeling when I worked with Thor in March 1995. These are astrolinements. They are pointing to special points on the other side of the ocean. And was Michael Rappenglück could find out that 4 of the still existing 7 pyramids are oriented to east. It's easy to see with the rams. Rams go from west to east. They were oriented on sanctuaries, what we call in Guanches language Almogaren. These are mountain sanctuaries. Each of this pyramid straight pointing to this place. This was the first evidence. The second evidence is when you are using the precision of the Earth in this program, you can turn back in time.
Yeah.
And what we find out, there is a high accordance to the stars of the zodiac, 2,900 before Christ, and these pyramids. 200 years earlier, 200 years later, is no similarity, no symmetry. But in between 2,900 and 2,800 before Christ, all eastern pyramids are oriented to Canary, and the western are perfectly aligned to Icod on Tenerife, and the other is a pyramid on La Palma. It's the Los Concharas pyramid. And this is 140 kilometers across the ocean. Even with the Tite in the middle, you cannot see from one pyramid to the other. Mm-hmm. But pyramid number 8 is 0.0 degrees pointed to this pyramid. You can even not see this pyramid. Coincidence? Fantasy?
Of course.
And with the help of this very talented archaeoastronomers, we could even find out the pyramid number 4 is now oriented to Cueva del Galdar. This is the most holy place in the whole Canaries. It's this painted cave with triangles painted. It's a colored painted cave on Montañas del Galdar. It's the most heilige Stätte, most sacred place, sacred place on the whole Canaries. And what we could find out today, there's a volcan in between. The volcan from Guima is well dated 800 years before Christ. And now this volcan is in the optical alignment. And we can date this volcan. This means this pyramid must have been existed before the volcan was exploding. But this is just a theory, no proof.
If they were aligning it on purpose.
If they were, and that's why I collected money from the community via Facebook and internet and my own TV station, Abora TV. So if you Google me, Abora TV, you will find it in the internet. And with these 2 broadcasters, we collected, let me say, roughly 14,000 euros. And with this amount of money, I could inspire with enthusiasm 2 very well-experienced geophysics. One is from the University of Athens, Dr. George Polimeres, and the other one is from La Coruña, from Spain. They are 2 different experts of optical stimulated luminescence. One guy will date the surface of the pyramid, and the other one will date the sediments underneath of the pyramids to find out, if we are lucky, of course, we don't know, the real age of those pyramids now.
How do you get permit to you have to open it up, right? So you have to drill or you have to...
Yeah, we can drill between the stones. It's non-invasive. You will see nothing. Also, even the drills are not necessary because the blocks are so roughly cutted that you can go in between easily.
But you are working together with archaeologists and the university.
Yeah, and this is also a game changer when I had this idea with the results from the astroarchaeology. I went just in February this year to the university in Tenerife, in Santa Cruz, La Laguna. This is a university city. And this was a game changer. Thor always struggled with the archaeologists from Tenerife. It was like Sarja was and me. It was a lifelong battle.
We will get to that point just in a minute.
But this tour was the same with the Canarian experts. And somehow it was again a gift from Abora. Abora is a divinity of Neolithic times. And it took me a few seconds to inspire Professor Carmen Del Arco, the leading archaeologist on the university in La Laguna, Santa Cruz, Tenerife. And she fall in love immediately. Magnifico, wonderful. This is the missing link what you are doing. And this was also such a nice talk, as with Thor, as with Svetlana. When you're getting familiar with the archaeologists and do not overwhelm them or try to battle them down. No, I'm just asking questions. I do not say the pyramids have an age of 5,000 years. We can just show that the data explain us that this place was in use for these alignments since 2,900 BC. I do not say the pyramids have an age of 4,900 years. In my opinion, the pyramids are younger because they are made by tri-stone architecture. They will not last 5,000 years.
But they could build on a much older structure.
On much older structures, rebuild again and again. We know this from other places where pyramids are collapsed after a few hundred years only. So this is important to be precise. And the archaeologists, they loved what I explained to them. Also about my PhD about nicotine and cocaine in Egyptian mummies was so fascinating. Carmen will be retired in a few months. And her successor is Dr. Beatrice. And Dr. Beatrice put my arm and said, Dominique, please come with me. I want to ask you something. I said, yes, I'm coming. What's happened? No, I have to tell you. When I was still a student and Carmen digged in North Tenerife and South Tenerife, and later when I made my own PhD, we several times found seeds from the tomato plant. And this you have to know, tomato is also a Mexican plant.
Really?
Yes, domesticated by the Aztecs, what we believe today. And she said to me, listen, you know the myth from Hercules with the golden apples, how Hercules had to steal these golden apples, which were watched by a dragon. And how Hercules tricked the dragon with his brother with the help of Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
Pomo de oro, goldener Apfel. This is tomato. Because this I could tell, she didn't know this, she expected tomatoes, but we know tomatoes, red, but in original, they are yellow. Yellow apple-like fruits. Pomo de oro.
Wow.
Golden apples. Yep. And they must have been very important for them because they were compared with gold. Golden apple. Pomo de oro.
Mm-hmm.
And I made my PhD about Egyptian mummification. And when we were together in the exhibition of the mummies, I told Beatrice how beautiful these human remains are mummified. The lids, the lips, the nose. It looks if this...
Where these mummies in
the museum in Santa Cruz, where the university has its exhibition. They have the largest mummy exhibition of guanches in the world. Many mummies are well educated, well presented there. And with my experiences in mummification, I told these two ladies, this is too good to be true. Yes, we know from Toriani, I mentioned this guy already, Toriani has reported that the guanches use resin from the tree of the trago for mummification purposes. It has also these miracles, a lot of alkaloids in this very ancient plant. But this resin is not good for the mummies. We have 1,000 cases in Egyptian mummies that the resin is drying and then it gets rifts and drying and destroys the tissues. But the faces in La Laguna are 100% without any resin.
How is it connected to the tomatoes?
Wait a second. And this means these results you cannot achieve without chemistry. Mm-hmm. Chemistry is modern, but the ancients used the chemistry of the plants.
Well, land of chem, you know.
That means they must have used unknown alkaloids. And when later Beatrice told me from the seeds of the tomato is very closely related with the nicotine, as with the tobacco plant. See, it comes from Mesoamerica, and the main alkaloid is alpha-solanin. And alpha-solanin has the same characteristics like nicotine. It's anti-insectoid, anti-fungoid, anti-hazard. And my grandmom, she used tomatoes when I still was a little child. I observed her. She was using tomatoes, the young branches. She harvested, smashed it and put it in water, and she was irrigating young tomato plants with water from the tomato plant. And when I came home, I immediately checked it in my scientific books. I could see that the alkaloid alpha-solanin has not the same power as nicotine, but similar, and was also used for such magical purposes. And I will eat my hat or my mobile phone. Then we will, and I'm flying next week to Tenerife with an asking for permission. And they already oral-wise gave me the permission to test the seeds. And even more exciting, in summer we will get access to these mummies. And I will examine the 5 best mummies of the occurrence of solanin, nicotine, or whatever.
That's interesting.
And this will give us a next weapon.
Yes.
A next leverage to lever the world in another direction. And with the dating of the pyramids on the Azores and on Tenerife, we will again open a new doorway to another perception. Those buildings are the typical sacral architecture of the early Bronze Age, end of the Neolithic Age, beginning of Copper Bronze Age. And this, nobody knows this. These pyramids were not, actually we have to say ziggurats. These are no pyramids. They were never tombs, as in Egypt. These are old stylish, old Mesopotamian ziggurats, step pyramids, for observing the sky, measuring and worshipping the sky. This is what Herodotus tells us about the ziggurats from Mesopotamia. And this is what we can already today demonstrate with the work of Dr. Rattenglück, Ramon and me, that those buildings were not erected by coincidence. They are focusing over hundreds of kilometers other temples, east and west. This cannot be a coincidence. And now with the dating, when we can bring them back in time before the Spaniards, before the Portuguese, then we can show this is an homologue line from Mesopotamia via Egypt to the Eastern Mediterranean, to the Canaries, and then even further west to the Antilles and to Mexico. And I never mentioned Alexander von Humboldt. Alexander von Humboldt is one of these very smart scholars of the 19th century. And Humboldt was exploring Cuba in 1820. And he had a colleague, his name is a German lord, his name was Lord von Braunschweig. And this Lord von Braunschweig published, parallel to Humboldt, his own book about the enigmatic discoveries on Cuba. And what these 2 guys revealed is exactly the same. What I saw in Cuba February last year. I was traveling by my own with my girlfriend Connie at first to the University of La Havana. We met a very famous professor there. And he brought me in contact with Professor Esteban from the University of Matanza. And this guy is specialized in cave drawings in Cuba. You will not believe it. Same ships, same relational.
Like the Nagada ships.
Nagada ships, full style Nagada. The cabines, the mast, the triangular sail, even the ball we have on these drawings, other things.
Do you have pictures of that?
Yes, I have it.
Maybe I can put it in the video.
And what shall I say? This is not a surprise. This is what my professor predicted me in my first examination on the university in Jena. When you are really able to continue tour, you have to sail from Tenerife to Cuba. My professor there showed me enigmatic things, blonde-haired people, blue eyes, and they have no idea where they are from. Definitely not transported by the Spaniards.
Have you heard about this Mesoamerican myth, Quetzalcoatl, or the feathered serpent?
Of course, this is from the Aztecs.
Yeah.
But this is the last culture, not the first. It's the last culture, not to make a mistake with the Olmecs. The Olmecs came from Asia. This is not many people say wrongly, these are the Africans, but they are not African. These are Chinese people. On the back, her name was Dr. Josephine Huppertz. I got to know her when I made the first years of my PhD in Bonn. And Josephine was the highest decorated Chinese expert in Germany. She was very famous in China, not in Germany. And she told me in many meetings, we had many meetings together, that the Olmecs were, in reality, are the Shang dynasty. The Shang came by boats in the 13th century before Christ, from China via the Pacific to Mesoamerica, and the Shang have founded the Olmecs. Of course, there are also African elements in the Olmec civilization. But today's Chinese experts can even still read the Olmec inscriptions. This is Chinese.
Wow.
Shang. Also the temples, the lotus sit, this is all Chinese, Asian religion. Has nothing to do with the ancient Egyptians. Nothing to do with the Phoenicians or something. But what we have are the legends from the Toltecs, what I mentioned in the beginning. Diego de Landa and other people have spoken about this. And we have an inscription what is a Maya? It's a Maya city in Guatemala. There is a stela. It's disappeared today, but we have the black and white pictures from the explorers. And on this stela, you see a volcanic island in the ocean fishes and crabs. This is not a freshwater lake. Big volcans, explosion, and people being rescued on big reed boats. And this is what...
How old is this?
18th century after Christ, something like this. But it's a legend. What the Aztecs derives their name from, Aztlan, Atlantis. Aztlan. And the Toltecs told the Maya people, which are still alive, that's why we have these legends alive. The Toltecs have taught the Maya farmers, we came by boats from an island which was sunken in the far ocean where the sun is rising in the east. And later, when this society collapsed by aggressive tribes coming from the north, similar to the Aztecs, but long before the Aztecs, this society decided, this is in the legends, let's make ships and leave this continent. This is too aggressive. We don't want to stay here further. And this is what the legend says. They made again boats and ventured out again back to east. And this is written in books from the 19th century. Very detailed. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
And the same is with Alexander von Humboldt. That's why I mentioned Humboldt. Humboldt and his colleague Braunschweig, a lord from Braunschweig, said, Braunschweig has written, Alexander von Humboldt did call these blonde-haired natives on Cuba Guanen because he knew they were derived from the Canaries, Tenerife, La Gomera, etc.
And there it's called Guanches, right?
There they are called. But he didn't want to call them Guanches because Humboldt knew these people came from the Eastern Mediterranean. Their real home is not Tenerife or La Gomera. Their real home is beyond the Minoan civilization. Even not the Minoans, further east. And this is what I say, Nagada people. These people from ancient Mesopotamia and Elam. Even the name Abora is from old ancient texts, Persian text. There the divinity is called Ahura Mazda, the god of the good, as the god of the goodness. The same counts for Abora. And Francesco Torriani and other historians have reported the Guanches made the step pyramids to worship a wonderful god called Abora. And Abora was always rising when the ocean, Munaiba, and the sky, Ataman, touching each other during sunset. When the sun is sinking in the far east, and in this very little moment, when the sun goes down, then rises Abora. It was being observed from these pyramids to worship this divinity. And when I read this in ancient books, I knew this is the name of my ship.
Speaking of the pyramids, so I'm sitting here with the person who actually sampled the Khufu graffiti, right, in the Great Pyramid of Giza.
This is accused. I never touched the Khufu cartouche, but let's start from
that was in the news, at least, yeah. So can you tell that story, where it began, how did you start it, and what was the result of this? Because as far as I know, the Khufu graffiti thing is the least important thing in that project.
Also in modern Egyptology, the Khufu cartouche is a holy grail of Egyptology. But let's start with the beginning. It was in November, December 2013. I gave a lecture in New York for one of my sponsors from Aqua Survey about our last expedition, Abora 3. And after Abora 3, I participated in a private exploration guided by Stefan Erdmann. Stefan is a good friend of mine. We knew us a little bit before. And shortly after I made my PhD, he contacted me in this special exhibition in Dresden, in the Traffic Museum. Dominique, I have discovered something on the ceiling of the King's Chamber. I was there in 2006 and 2008. I took samples, and I am a good friend with Havas. I said, what, you are a private person. How you can take samples in the Great Pyramid?
He took samples?
Many times. He had such a bunch of permissions, 8 permissions.
What's samples of what?
Of soil, of salt. He did many Stefan. He did many explorations by his own long before me to prove an old theory. It was a water pump from this famous Austrian guy. Or I forgot his name. Famous for this pumping theory.
I heard about the theory, but I didn't know him.
It was for irrigation when the desertification of the Sahara started, when the pyramid was erected.
Did he prove it, or?
No, he could show there was soil inside, and there was salt crystals, which speaks for water, but he didn't think on evaporating water, which is running through the stone and evaporates on the surface. Therefrom, the crystals are derived not by water from the flood. That was he is thinking. I said, Stefan, nice, do this, but how can you make real science in a pyramid? You are not a scientist. He is an Immobilien guy from Hanover. He deals with Immobilien. I said, no, it was easy. We were visiting, we were meeting with Havas, and we told him with other friend, we want to do this private investigation. And Havas said, you have to pay a fee, and then you apply for a permit. And he got it, not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times, 9 times. He had 9 permissions. One was even signed from Havas. Without the signature from Havas, I would never have been participated. But when I saw this, and also the books what Stefan has published before me, Havas was in everything more or less involved, or at least behind it, supported this. And I said, listen, Stefan.
What was the goal of this examination?
He wanted to prove that this was an ancient machine of producing energy. It was never a pump, something.
Still this water pump.
Still this water pump. And in one thing we do more or less agree, it was neither a tomb. It has many functions, but it was for sure no tomb for eternity. It had to do with burial ceremonies, the pyramid, but it was never the tomb of tomb of Khufu. But it's another story. And he said, in 2006, I observed something really remarkable, very similar pattern on the ceiling. I called them tongues. Tongue has cat tongues. The chocolate, what we had today, we don't have this chocolate anymore, unfortunately. And he showed me very bad pictures, analog pictures, what you can see could be remains of torches, also Flammen, fire sticks. We don't know. And Stefan told me, I went to the Egyptologist from Cairo. Herr Erdmann, this is not important. I went to Berlin to Egyptologists from Germany. Herr Erdmann, save your money in other questions. This is rubbish. Put it away. And when he showed me this in my exhibition here in 2012 in Dresden, I immediately identified this on 9 patterns on each side, identical in shape, color, and size. Cannot be a coincidence. Whatever it was, this was handmade by something unknown. And I decided, good. If you really can provide me such a permit with a signature, and when I'm coming with you, I demand you, I need to meet the highest person in Egyptology in Giza, which confirms me that we can do this sampling. I cannot. If you say no, impossible, then I cannot come with you. I said, yes, no problem. And we went there. I met the general manager of the Giza Plateau, highest leading Egyptologist, Dr. Ali Garba Omar. He made He was just finishing his PhD at the American University of Cairo. We met, we spoke, we explained what we want to do, why we want to do. It was nothing about the Khufu Cartouche. It was about these black areas on the ceiling to investigate the chemical nature of this color, this patinization. He said, yes, interesting. Yeah, I'm also interested. I follow you. I come. He was not in the permission.
In the pyramid
In
with
the
you?
pyramid, he changed the plan, put his name in the list. We have this written.
Yeah.
He said, and he followed us even. And so we were 6 Egyptologists, so 3 Egyptologists.
He was with you in the pyramid?
He was
Okay,
with me.
okay.
And we had 3 Egyptologists, 2 policemen, and 1 observer. 6 Egyptians and 3 Germans. Stefan, my cameraman, Jan, and I. And before we started the expeditions, I'm well connected with many Egyptologists all over Europe. I have a good friend, Professor Pittitscharter from the University of Turin. He is a color expert of Egyptian colors. I asked him, look, this we want to test. What's your advice? Yeah, I would test this with alcoholic liquids. If it's Rauch, ruß from flames, also smoke, then you need butanol, ethanol, something like this to get it from the surface easily. I asked him, how long would it take? No, with a little ear stick, you put in alcohol liquid, 10 minutes, and then put it seal it, and then you can investigate it in a university. Stefan was working with the Fresenius Institute since 20 years in Dresden. And so, good. I asked Garber. Garber said, I come with you. I will be a witness. I'm even myself, of course. He's a scientist. He wanted to be involved in the first publication. And then they took me the letters. Everything was prepared, well prepared by the Egyptians, not by us. We didn't pay any money under the table. I would immediately stepped out. And I was witness how Stefan paid them in advance. There was a meeting, and then was a second meeting with the tour operator and Garber, and we had to pay the official fees according to the official list. There's a list, what you can download. 1 hour costs this, 2 hours cost this costs this. Summer, finish, and Stefan paid 2,500 euros. For the letters, was a list, and according to this list, I was a witness how Stefan paid this 2,500 euros to the officials.
You did this after the plateau closed, because we were also there with a special permission, but
it was closed
after they closed it. Yeah,
this was beyond 6 p.m. something like this. And daylight doesn't play any role.
Yeah,
we went in. As I told, everything was well prepared. We put 2 letters together, very very primitive. Good that I'm a sailor, so I could make serious knots. The line was so weak. 1 toe, and it was broken. So it was really risky undertaking to put these letters together. And I climbed up, took my headlamp, and I was falling down almost when I saw these black tongues under artificial light.
Why?
Because it was a metallic shining. And this is what I read in antique books. In those days, 2013, I was doing my second PhD on the Technical University in Dresden about antique cartography, which is also a very hard topic for me, antique cartography. And I read everything about the antique authors, Plinius, Eratosthenes, Alexander von Milet. I read all these books when it's about exploration and how the Greeks have studied the Egyptians. And there is a guy, I mentioned his name already, his name is Alexander von Milet, 6th, 7th century before Christ. He was the first who was mentioning magnetite, iron oxide. Then we have this wonderful explanations from Pliny the Elder, who describes magnetite very scientifically. It has a black metallic glimmer. It has a black silver shining when you take light from the side. And it is the only iron oxide which is magnetic, which has the ability to throw magnetite to magnetite or iron to magnetite. No hematite, no titanite. All iron oxides does it. Don't do this. Only magnetite. And when I saw in my first attempt to have access to these black tongues. And I saw it with my own eyes. I knew immediately, this is iron oxide. Nothing with black torture, ruse, graffiti, what we believed in the beginning. In our initial hypothesis, I understood, forget your liquids, alcoholic liquids. We had also a little hammer and a little sichel, and it's called flaking in geology. It's you are getting substrate by just touching from aside the surface, and tiny few milligram. We took from each tongue 2 samples, one from the black edge and one from real granite, 2 samples. One sample had a weight of 10 to 50 milligrams. 2 crystals of salt, maybe, not more.
Yeah.
And we took this on, we sampled 3 tongues, 6 samples in total. And I was finished after 20 minutes. Up and down, took each tongue 5 minutes. And the permission was lasting 2 hours. And we consumed less than 20 minutes. And so Stefan and I, we watched each other, why we have paid 2,500 euros for this 20 minutes, nothing, work was so quick. And we asked Dr. Garber Ali Omar, listen, we are doing surface investigations with a high advanced laboratory in Germany. Why do we not test the famous cartouche? Give me a tiny bit of this cartouche. And we can prove, is the color authentic or it's modern or falsificated by Howard Weiss? He said, yes, no, of course. But you have only still 1.5 hours. We have to leave the pyramid at 8. You can do everything upstairs. But please, assure me, swear me, that you are before 8 down, that we can leave the pyramid. I'm getting in deep shit if you are later.
Yeah, I know that.
I said, no problem. I'm a sailor. I'm going up and down to the mast easy. It's not a big thing for me. I'm not a climber, but as a seafarer, it's normal that you climb on the mast and do something with the rigging. I said, and my camera is also from Saxony, Jan Gattig. He's also quite good, tough man.
But you were agreeing on sampling the Khufu cartouche?
He offered me. Yeah,
really?
He explained me where it is, exactly, precisely. You have to climb in the highest chambers, takes the left wall, and almost in the middle is a Khufu cartouche. He explained me.
But you decided not to take that one?
I want to say, following this statement, authorized orally a permission. He was a responsible guy, not I. We didn't want to do anything. It was the achievement that we could save 1.5 hours for testing.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who was a PhD Egyptologist who gave me oral permission to climb up, oral permission even to touch and test the cartouche. Then we climbed up. This was the most dangerous things I have ever done in my life. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a reed boat is nothing.
Really?
No. It was, believe me, I survived it. Hare Krishna, full stop. You cannot imagine how nasty and dirty this place is.
I can, I was there.
And the ladders, when we tested in the chambers, they were half and half overlaid. To reach this 9 meters high entrance, just 1 meter. Yeah. I will never do this, never in my life. I survived it. I'm thankful to God or whomever. I would never go up again, at least not with this equipment. We went up, was very exhausting. And when we were there, I was shocked how dirty the place is, how badly secured.
It's full of other graffitis, modern
And this was
writings,
so shocking. Yeah. It took us a while even to orientate, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And later we said, we just want to investigate the color of these inscriptions. It's not necessary to touch Khufu cartouche. Let's do an unimportant, unfamous little inscriptions. And we found it was not a cartouche, but it was something similar like a cartouche. It was not a cartouche.
Like a different graffiti. Yeah.
A graffiti was a little bit, not a complete circle. And which is important to understand, this I understood even months later, The whole thing is covered with gypsicum, with gips,
Yeah.
with plaster. And this plaster suffered a lot by the humidity. And that's why the color also suffered a lot, what we selected. The Khufu cartouche is quite good in order, but the inscription what I selected was pre-damaged before us, and that's why I said, if they want to accuse us, we can defend ourselves. It was already pre-damaged, so we didn't make really big damage. And I took 2 pieces from the collar with a sigil from the size of my little fingernail. Very tiny pieces.
Please, maybe just speak to the mic because...
Yeah. And what shall I say? This was never intended. This was a lucky to the coincidence that we saved so much time in the main objection downstairs. And we came down at the right time. I showed Gabor the samples. Put it away, I know. I want to be in the first publication. I said, I promise you, of course, I'm German, I promise you, I swear you, when we are publishing, you will be number 1 in the publication. That was it. Nothing more. Later, 6 months later, I was giving a speech in New York, and I was in the television, and they took me out, and there is a minister of antiquity, his name is Saya was. He's accusing you have stealing the Holy Grail of Egyptology, has hammered out the cartouche to prove that the Jews have made this pyramid. I said, so what? What you are telling me?
How did he know that you were sampling the cartouche graffiti if it was not in the original paper or permit?
This is such a crazy story. Also, yes, we did investigate the cartouche, but not the real cartouche inscription.
But it was not in the original permission thing. So
that's why
why did he know that?
He knew this because us. When we had the first results from the iron oxide investigations, I arranged not here in another museum a conference with Stefan, and this went well through the alternative media, and a guy from a society for protection of antiquities in Egypt, he is quite good in English. He understood what we have shown in the video, and he accused us to say was there are few Germans who have stolen the cartouche. They want to do this and this. He understood not German, but he calculated this in his head. And based to the fact that in April 2013, Havas was fired the 3rd times, being as a minister after revolution. He was in competition with the new minister, Mohammed Ibrahim. And he wanted to play a bad game against him. We were just in the wrong time, in the wrong period on this place. His objection was never to harm me. His objection was to hammer down Mohammed Ibrahim.
So it was a political game.
Political game. He has accused him. Look to him. He cannot protect it. German amateurs were bribed by the Jews, by my biggest enemy from Belgium, Robert Bauval, who got from the Jews $50 million to bribe the Germans to prove that the pyramids were made by King Solomon and not by us Egyptians. And this caused a wave.
But did you know Robert Bauval?
No, I never met him before. This was all fairy tale. The whole story is a fairy tale, was initiated by Havas to accuse his successor, Mohammed Ibrahim, to become elected or re-elected again.
But he sent an investigation team.
This came later. Okay. Wait a second. This was November. In December, I have good friends in Egypt. I contacted directly the minister, Mohammed Ibrahim. I had his private phone number. I got his private email address. At first I apologized for this unconvincedness and said, sorry, we had no idea what we are causing. Of course, we give you immediately back the samples, and I will write a letter to the Egyptian nation to apologize to the thing what we have caused. And he was very friendly and gentle. And there was a German-speaking professor, Ahmed Asman, who was a communicator between Mohammed and me. And he said, Dominic, please do everything to calm it down. My nephew is this Dr. Ali Garba Omar. Please help him. He's sitting in the jail already.
He was already in jail.
He was already in jail.
Who was
the general inspector who gave us the permission. And he said, I will do everything what you are needing, what you are desiring. And I had several personal emails also with the minister. And I explained everything, why it happened, what we have investigated, what we found. And the minister on December 13th published an article in the Al-Ahram Weekly, I will not penalize the Germans. If something was wrong with the Egyptian authorities, it's on our side, not on the side of the Germans. The Germans have simply made modern science. And Havas, please, shut up your big mouth. We know what you have done long before.
This was in the paper?
This was in the paper. I have this article.
Newspaper. Really?
It was in the newspaper, Al-Ahram Weekly. I don't even in those days, I even did not understand what Ibrahim has published, because again, I knew I never touched this cartouche. What we had in mind was this black tongs. This other is a side station, what we did not really have focused too much. This red color, this we would have investigated as a side step. And when I read this article, I got it by Robert Paval, he is speaking Egyptian fluently, Arabic. He translated all this rubbish and explained me what is the meaning and blah, blah, blah. So I have to thank Robert Paval a lot. Without him, we couldn't settle this case, that's for sure. I'm very thankful for Robert's participation in this criminal case. And what I got to know...
How did you get in contact with Robert Paval?
He called, so when I got this TV news, it took about 4 hours. A Spanish number called me, and this was Robert. Hey, you asshole, how do you can accuse me of cooperating with you? I say, Robert, sorry, you know and I know we do not know each other. I have never said you participated. And so he listened, and we started very quickly, we became friends. And we decided to cooperate together to hammer down Havas. And with the help of Robert, I got in contact with Professor Robert Schoch. And Robert Schoch, this is what Robert knew before, was 2 times in the chamber, once in 2003 or 4, and the next time in 2006. And Robert sent the pictures, Robert Schoch sent the pictures first to me and then to Robert Paval. I got it. I opened the picture from 2003. Wonderful, no damages. I opened the picture from 2006. Damaged. And my initial reaction was, oh my goodness, we are guilty.
So 10 years before, or 3 years before your visit?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. And then I said, oh my goodness, we are free now. This is not an accusation, it's a reveal. And revealing evidence. This showed us before that the damages were done somewhere in between 2003 to 2006. And then Robert Paval started with his library on films about Egyptology to investigate Havas. He followed Havas any step. And he found the records in which he was sitting 2006, simultaneously, same year. He was sitting in 2006 or 2008 in front of the cartouche, pointing with his fingers to the damages and said nothing about it.
Rookie mistakes.
Can you smell the antiquity? He can smell the antiquity, but his antique flesh, yes. Yeah, it took me 7-8 years. Then after this article, Robert Ibrahim got a huge attack against him. And it ended in April, he quit his job, of course. And another Egyptologist, good friend of mine, Professor...
Who quit? Havas?
No, this new minister, of course.
Okay.
He quit in March, April. And I got this information from Professor David Rohl, an Egyptologist from London, good friend of mine now and former times from Robert Paval. And David later he even gave speeches here in this hall. He told me, yeah, Dominic, Havas had him is in his hand. When he was a student, he made a bit mistake and he was covered up by Havas. And so Havas had his balls in his hand. One further word, and we had destroy him. So, and it was David Hall who explained me here in this hall, the Fenner Hall, when we met second times, said Havas had his balls in his hand, and that's why he refused. He left our part away, and then what you said, and Professor Dr. Havas initiated a second investigation by Dr. Monica Henner. And Monica Henner climbed with a team of Egyptologists in the chamber, and they have detected, after the article of Ibrahim, these 4 scratches. And then the whole thing became even more in running. And we couldn't stop it anymore.
But if you provided the pictures?
This took years. Also, I got
you got the pictures.
I got the
years
pictures.
After this.
No, not years, months after this.
But it was already late.
So then, the problem was Monica Henner and Havas were so aggressively against us and were accusing us of lying and tricking the government and all this rubbish. And it took me also, then I was being accused by the German prosecution, but they made a small case. I said, give me the penalty. I had to pay 1,000 euros. I said, give it to me. I pay it on my pocket. I don't want it to be involved anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But due to the wrong accusations of Monica Henner, Interpol jumped in, and I became blocked by Interpol.
Oh.
I couldn't travel 8 years.
ADS?
8 years I was stocked with a red flag from Interpol.
What is ADS?
ADS means I couldn't travel from 2013 till 2018.
Outside of Germany?
Outside of Germany.
Oh, okay. Wow.
We took a court case in Lyon with Interpol. There is an opportunity to contradict a red flag. And Lyon has the opportunity, as the headquarter of Interpol is in Lyon. We had the opportunity to make not a real court case, but in pre-investigation by lawyers and all this rubbish. Steven paid 2,000 euros for the lawyer who defended us in Lyon. And we got a long 3 pages letter that the evidence are well and carefully evaluated. And the team came to the conclusion we did not test the cartouche. It's obvious that it was pre-damaged. And they recommend all Interpol authorities to reveal the red flag. But it's like an association. They have no power of eternity. They can just suggest.
Recommend, yeah.
And with this letter, I went to German Interpol again, because in 2016, I got an invitation from the Sultanate of Oman of giving a speech in Sohar, the University of Sindbad University. And she said, yeah, this can be true with this letter. They should acknowledge that you are free. But so what shall I say? I traveled, of course, I'm an explorer. I did not care on all advices. I got the invitation. I traveled to Oman. I entered the country without any stress. And I gave my speech. We immediately have founded a lot of friendship and acknowledgements that we will make our own expedition with Abora from Oman to India and back.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to return at home, I was blocked in the prison. I was sitting 8 days in jail.
What?
Yes, 8 days. But fortunately, number one, after 2 days, I had my first interview with the mayor of Interpol. And I had all my evidence on my computer, film, etc., etc. And we had 130 pages, handwritten from the Egyptian prosecutor, with no picture, no drawing, nothing, just handwritten accusations. And he translated me from Egyptian into English. Yeah, I sizzled a channel 13 centimeters wide, 2 centimeters thick, 11 centimeters long on the ceiling. I said, what? In just 30 minutes, I cannot even scratch on granite. And he also started to love this. He said to me, this is rubbish. And fortunately, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Oman, he became acknowledged. My problem was when I was sitting on the airport in jail, that the highest policeman from Egypt was in the hospital and was in an operation. Small thing, but he was under narcose. She couldn't ask them what we are doing with this brave German. And a young, fresh officer said, put him in jail. And this was a mistake, because when they put me in jail in Muscat, not in the airport jail, my folder went to the prosecutor. And then it was an official case. And nobody could make it return. When it is an official case, it is an official case, and you have to follow the official orders.
Yeah.
And this is international law. You have to give the accuser 60 days time to provide your attack, to provide your accusation. And that is why I was stuck in Oman over 2 months, to give the Egyptian prosecutor enough time to prepare the accusation, which was full fairy telling. And the Omani police, the Omani prosecutor, the Omanis understood that I am innocent. And they really protected me also, I have to say this. They were very gentle to me, very smart. And I have to say, this is a wonderful Islamic country. I never experienced so much friendship and hospitality as in Oman. And thanks to very good friends in Oman, I was giving speeches in schools, in universities about Abora. I was teaching with children, and I used my time because I am a teacher. I love to teach. And this gave me a lot of credits in Oman.
Yeah.
And due to my very strong friends, what I got to know in a coffee shop, not officially, I got to know them in a coffee shop, they gave the Omani government a lot of pressure, help this young guy. He is innocent. And this gave me 20 days less.
Yeah.
And they put me out in a secret operation overnight, like in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. But could you finally test the samples you took?
We finally tested the magnetite, but
from the ceiling of the King's Chamber.
This was very elaborate with X-ray and all this stuff.
That was from the King's Chamber,
from
right?
King's Chamber, and this took a lot of money and a lot of time. And then came the blowout from Havas, and so we had not the opportunity of testing the color. But what we can say, we tested it a little bit under an electron microscope, and it's hard to say anything. What we can say with the HD pictures from the Professor Robert Schoch, that we have 2 different colors in the cartouche. We have the outside cartouche, and the main letters are in a light brownish color. And in the K, letter K, are 3 strokes. And these 3 strokes have for sure a different color. This what I can state from the pictures from Robert Schoch. After the affair, Stefan has contacted the British Museum in London, where the original drawings from Howard Weiss are. And we got a full HD copy of the original cartouche, and we could compare this artificial drawing from Howard Weiss and the cartouche, and you can see the differences between what Howard Weiss has painted and what the HD picture shows you. And the HD picture shows you a circle with a dot in the middle, the other letter, and the HD picture from Havas, from Robert Schoch, shows you the 3 strokes are not exactly in the middle as Howard Weiss has painted. You see that one stroke is a little bit lower, and the 2 others are more to the north of the cartouche. And this, they wanted to let disappear the point in the middle. And this point you can see. You can see in this high resolution picture, this is painted afterwards with a different color.
But this paint from Howard Weiss, that's what he copied from the wall, right?
What he copied from the wall is not identical what
to
we
the
can
HD
see.
pictures, yeah.
I can, in my opinion, this is authentic.
Do you have these pictures?
Yes, of course.
Can I insert them in the video?
We have it in a book. I published a book with Stefan.
Okay.
And it's published in a book. What we published after the Khufu Scandal was over. And the thing is, In my opinion, the pyramids are the pyramids. And there are so many scientific arguments that the pyramids were erected in the fourth dynasty. For me, just my opinion, I do not say I'm saying the truth. The pyramids were for sure done, in my opinion, in the fourth dynasty by Khufu. How Herodotus and other documents are proving this. What we see in the Howard Weiss cartouche is that something was changed during the painting or afterwards. You cannot say maybe somebody has painted this one day later with a different mixture of the color. This is, I do not say it's made by Howard Weiss. What we can see is 2 layers of colors, 2 different colors. What does it mean? Would be so easy with modern technology. I would reveal this in 2 weeks.
Why didn't they do it?
They did it, and the results, obviously, were not what Havas expected to get. That's why we have this very professional scratches on the cartouche. They used very precise tools. We investigated a lot the pictures from Robert Schoch, and in HD you can make the pattern of the tools this big, and you see a fantastic lineage on the edges. These were super professionals. I did it as an amateur. People who have tested this cartouche were professionals. And the results are for sure.
Has to be very safe and grounded.
But they do not fit to the official opinion, in my opinion.
Or they just lost the samples.
So this is possible. This is so ridiculous. When I was in contact with Minister of Antiquity, Mohamed Ibrahim, I offered him to send him back the samples. He said, Dominic, save it. We will do this together when we can calm down the court case. I will help you. I will assist you. I will not let you put in jail. We will put the prisoners out as soon as possible. And he was very friendly. He was really confident to bring the coup from the ice, so to say.
Yeah.
And later, we got the police knocked the door 6 months later and made home investigation. And we were willing to give the samples back. No, they made a huge case with press conference. We Germans, the German police, supported the Egyptian authorities. They made a press conference in Berlin with the Minister of Science of Saxony, my department, where I did my PhD, also my second PhD, about antique cartography. And also the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Cairo came to this press conference, and they handed over this like a treasure. Tiny pieces. A matchbox is 10 times too big for the samples. And then a reporter from the Bild Zeitung, a good friend of mine, was witness in this press conference, and another colleague asked the foreign minister, what do you do with these remains? And this minister for foreign affairs said, yeah, we don't know, but I believe we will glue it again back on the pyramid. This tiny micro.
What was the result of the other samples?
Yeah, we could prove the occurrence of iron.
Okay,
iron
so
tools.
it's indicating some kind of
This
iron
confirms
smelting or
this confirms what Herodotus has reported to us. Pyramids are so precise because they used already iron tools for the making of the pyramids, and this so many other Egyptologists in the 19th century said it. It was Flinders-Petrie, Karl Richard von Lepsius. They all were convinced that the pyramid were done with the help of iron tool, and iron smelting is not a big thing. We call it in German Rennverfahren, Renn-Method. This comes from the old German word rinnen. You are heating the iron, that the slag is smelting, not the iron. You do this with temperatures around 1200 degrees Celsius. Then the slag starts to smelt, and in the oven remain is pure iron. And by hammering out, you can really make a good iron quality by hammering. And in this hammering process, you have sunder on the surface. And this sunder layer, which arises during hammering, is magnetit, FO3O4, sunder.
So how this magnetit
this is
was
a natural
attached to these beams?
This was attached.
Granite beams?
It happens during hammering the blades out.
Yeah.
And the blades were for lifting the blocks. A sponsor of mine, unfortunately, he died in 2019. A sponsor, his name is Wolfgang Schmidt. He was world leading in drilling technologies, one of my sponsors. And we made a 12 meters long Cretan block with a weight only 16 tons.
What block?
Beton, Cretan.
Concrete.
Concrete. Concrete. And we reanimated these iron plates and we hammered with simple wedges under these iron tools, and we could lift such a 16-ton block in just 5 minutes, 10 centimeters. We lifted
How many people?
2. 2. We were able to lift a block in 2 hours, 1 meter. 2 people, not hundreds, not thousands.
Okay.
And this is exactly what Herodotus has reported with advanced lifting technologies.
But he was describing wooden tools, right?
Wooden constructions.
Winches and
with winches, and you need the iron to protect the beton.
But he was also talking about iron tools?
Yes, he was talking. And we have Aeschylus and we have Strabon saying the same. And we have the modern archaeologists in Georgia and in North Turkey and in Armenia. And when we sailed with Abora 4 to prove the iron of the pharaohs, what Herodotus says, the precious metal comes from the eastern Baltic Sea. We crossed with Abora 4 the Baltic Sea, sailed through the Bosporus, through the Hellespont to Limnos, and from Limnos to, via Troy to Santorini. I met Professor Rüstem Aslan, the head of Troy excavations, and he confirmed my theory and said, from Troy to B, this layer, iron starts to appear.
Which year is that exactly?
4th dynasty in Egypt.
Nice.
Double cross evidence.
I was wondering if this is connected to the Nagada culture or not, because if the iron...
This is 300 years, 400 years, 500 years later. Also the Nagada culture ends with Nagada 3.
Yes, 3100 or something like that.
Maybe, I would say, with modern adaptation, I would say 3000 BC.
But if they would have already iron tools, it would kind of bright a different light on this waste topic.
Yeah, of course. And we know, his name is Professor Pleiner. Unfortunately, he died in 2015. But his successor is a good friend of mine. He's now iron professor in the Mountain University in Freiberg. I have his habilitation about ancient iron minery. And in this book, Professor Lüchertz, this is the name of his successor, he's now a professor in Freiberg, he gave me all the work of Pleiner. And Pleiner could show they had already iron in the Tel Halaf culture. Tel Halaf is 5600 before Christ. Long before.
So you think the Nagada culture surely had iron?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this solves all technical questions with the construction of the Khufu pyramid, with the granite technologies. If you have iron, you can do anything.
And
we have 3 meter long remains, not only in the King's Chamber, also in the Great Gallery. We have the same pattern on the ceiling.
How do you know this pattern is not a modern...
Easy, because we have the blocks, all blocks have rifts due to the pressure from above. Mm-hmm. But there are 2 blocks without these cracks. And these 2 blocks, I pictured this on the pyramid, they go under the nave of the wall. And this means this patina, this patinization, could only happen before the construction or during the construction, but never afterwards.
Can you send me this picture?
Yeah, and we have another proof. It's from the Great Canary. There's this Calvini shaft. You see the same tongues, a little bit shorter but wider.
It's a little bit like a torch mark. It's like
no, it's black. You will see. I sent you the picture. You can put this in. And important is Calvini opened this shine door, this pseudo door. There was just a pseudo door, and Calvini has opened and discovered the first chamber. This was not how it was. And there you see, with this opened enlargement, how the tongues go under the construction. And this is a vivid proof that the tongues were before the installations of these blocks, either in the King's Chamber and in the Great Gallery. They were lifted by the same technology.
Crazy.
Full proven. This is the value of experimental archaeology.
Crazy.
And combination with modern forensic methods with the laboratory.
But do we have any example of iron findings from? I know that they found some iron parts in one of the shafts.
You need to read Pliner. Pliner has proven 34 iron evidences in the Old Kingdom and 12 even in pre-dynastic time.
Okay.
Full stop.
I have to read those. It's
accessible. It's open.
Is it a book or something?
It's a book in the Library of Potsdam.
Okay.
And I have the book of the best student of Pliner. It's my friend. And I got all this knowledge from him via Lüchertz, Professor Bernd Lüchertz from the Mountain University in Freiburg.
Thank you for this amazing conversation. I'm very sorry that I have to leave. My train is going.
Yes,
but
we have to hurry up.
Where people can find you and help you with your research?
It's abora.eu. At the moment, I have a little bit difficulties with my webpage because we are making a new one, but it will be guided via another website. Actually, should have access. And we have also an English branch. It's not so elaborate. It's a little bit less information, but we have enough material.
I think you should make it available in English because it's an amazing project. And if you would just show this to the rest of the world, you would be probably much more supported.
That's why I have to thank you, Karoli. I'm hoping that you will excited and amazed about our experimental
it's
work.
Thanks for your time and for the explanations and everything you do. Thank you.
And I hope we'll see you again here, maybe. Or on the open ocean. Because after this successful testings, we try to cross the Atlantic next time, but in these times from east back to west to prove this tobacco, tomato, cocaine networks via Cuba. Because in Cuba, we have everything what Alexander von Humboldt has written in his books. We can prove it.
I wish you all the best for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. A massive thank you to my incredible supporters: Oniku, Anton Hanselik, Trin, Johannes Meyer, Lutz Hacke, Sarah Cox, Uncle Chucky, and Vasana. Your generosity fuels this journey into ancient technology, keeping this show alive and pushing my research further than ever. As the ancient Egyptians would say, Ankh Veja Seneb.